In this micro lesson, you'll learn about some extra items and equipment that can help you in your PvM adventures. A micro lesson is a short and to-the-point video guide that teaches you about RuneScape. This time, one of our combat and PvM experts, Thaxi, who's also a teacher on the Raid FC staff, is going to teach us about some extra combat peripherals or items you may want to bring along.
When I'm teaching or hosting bossing events, one of the most consistent differences I see between newer PvM'ers and more experienced PvM'ers is what they bring with them. Very often, I'll see learners with an inventory that includes just an overload, maybe 5 prayer-restoring potions, and a ton of fish. At a baseline level, that's probably enough to get you through most content, and sometimes that's all you need. But the goal of this lesson will be to discuss things you can bring with you to make your combat encounters go a bit more smoothly. If nothing else, we hope you walk away from this lesson knowing the answer to the question, what's that thing in this guy's inventory, and why does he bring it along? Having said that, equipment and perk switches technically fall into this category, but are fairly in-depth topic under a more advanced combat umbrella. We may touch on switches in a future lesson, so let us know if that's something you'd be interested in hearing about. That said, let's dive in. The first thing to talk about, and one of the most commonly used combat items, is the Enhanced Excalibur. It is a 4,000 life point heal over 40 seconds every 5 minutes, obtained by completing the Seer's Diary tasks. This effectively fills the inventory slot that would go to a piece of food, except it isn't consumed, it heals more than any solid food, and it doesn't drain adrenaline on use. Next up is the Ancient Elven Ritual Shard, which is an equivalent item to the Enhanced Excalibur, except that it works for prayer, restoring 370 prayer points over 30 seconds every 5 minutes or so. Large differences include that it is tradable, with the current cost just over 7 million gold, but it also doesn't restore as much as you'd get from having a prayer potion in that slot, making it an entirely cost-saving item in the combat setting rather than an extra utility to bring extra prayer points with you. The next thing to talk about is some kind of a shield or defender. These allow you to have access to defensive abilities in case something goes wrong or in case you need to use Resonance for a clutch heal while trying to squeeze that one extra kill out of your trip. I usually say that it is almost always worth bringing a shield just to get used to using them in case you need to. Next, we're going to talk about Weapon Poison, specifically Weapon Poison +++, as it is tradable, and so for most people that's the option you should be using. It causes your attacks to apply and reapply a small amount of additional damage. It's fairly cheap for the amount of damage it provides, and is generally worth using against any target that isn't immune to poison. Next is the Adrenaline Renewal Potion. These are one of the most advanced items we'll cover today, but they can make a big difference. They restore 40% adrenaline over 6 seconds, and enable you to use powerful thresholds shortly after using an ultimate, without the damage trough you'd otherwise have while you build back to that 50% adrenaline. It's important to note, making these may require use of the assist system, as they do have a fairly high herblore requirement to create. Next thing is the actual food you bring with you. Specifically, combo eating. The next set of items are generally referred to as non-solid foods, and they include items like Ceradomin brews, Guthix rests, blue blubber jellyfish, and karambwans. These healing sources are unique in that they can be used simultaneously with traditional solid foods to heal for a massive amount in a single game tick. This is done by clicking or activating the keybind for the solid food and then the non-solid food, and can be very useful in situations where you take a large burst of damage from a monster or boss mechanic. Next is Vulnerability Bombs. These apply the vulnerability spell to targets in a 3x3 area near where they land, increasing the damage those creatures take by 10% for the next minute. These bombs must be activated with a keybind, and the damage increase they give is really noticeable. Lastly for today, the Adrenaline Urn allows you to keep adrenaline topped up between fights so you don't have to stall adrenaline if you want to start a fight with some powerful ultimates or thresholds. I mentioned it at the start of the lesson, but for emphasis, these are just suggestions of items that could help make your combat a little easier. You should feel free to bring whatever items you feel are going to be helpful or necessary for completing the content you want to play. As always, please note, this micro lesson is intentionally brief. These are just some items that are useful to bring when doing combat in RuneScape. If there's an item you normally bring that we didn't mention, or if you have any questions, tell us in the comments below. And if you found this video useful, like and subscribe.